This happened a few weeks ago. My son and daughter-in-law flew to Miami for vacation. I was working my usual late shift at the airport, what I'd done for over 20 years. I knew that place like the back of my hand. The hustle and bustle, the announcements blaring. It's a constant symphony. But when the last flight took off and the lights dimmed, everything changed. An unsettling silence filled the terminal. I couldn't shake it off. I was finishing up my checks around 1 a.m. It was too quiet. The flickering lights drew my eye. I thought about reporting it. Just as I started to move, I saw a bag. It was near the gates, just sitting there. It looked like it didn't belong. I approached it, my gut twisting. The zipper was partly open. I peeked inside. There were clothes and personal items, but none seemed to belong to any passenger. Why was it there? My heart raced. The next few nights were worse. I saw faces in the windows, strange reflections staring back at me. I thought it was fatigue, but then I heard laughter. It echoed through the empty hall. My skin prickled, but when I tried to listen harder, it vanished. All I could hear was my heartbeat and the hum of the air conditioning. I checked the security footage. I hoped to find clues, but the problem was worse. Sections were missing, like someone was erasing them on purpose. I started to sweat. Maybe I was imagining things. I couldn't trust my mind anymore. One evening, as I walked through the waiting area, the lights flickered again. A chill ran down my spine. I stopped, scanning the shadows. I felt watched. I heard the laughter again, deep and creepy. I wanted to bolt, but I was eager to get to the bottom of it. I approached the bag one more time. My hands shook. This wasn't how I thought airport maintenance would go. Not with dread creeping in. I needed to face whatever this was. But fear gripped me. I turned to leave, and then I heard it. My name, softly called. I looked back, but the area was empty. Then I saw it. A movement behind me. A figure. Just a flash. My heart dropped. Who were they? My breath hitched. I had to know, but fear paralyzed me. I thought of my family, how safe they were in Miami, or so I hoped. I couldn't take my eyes off the spot where I'd seen the figure. My gut twisted tighter. I wanted to shout, to run, but I felt stuck there. I might never have gotten another chance to confront this, and I cursed myself for not turning back to see. So, what happened next? Who was that figure? I feel like I need to tell someone, but my voice catches in my throat. The terminal waits with its secrets, and I'm trapped in the middle. I can't forget. I stood frozen, my heart thumping in my chest. I strained to peer into the shadows, hoping to catch a glimpse of the figure, but it was too late. Whatever it was, it had vanished. Panic rose, but I couldn't leave. I had responsibilities. I took a deep breath and stepped back toward the bag. I couldn't help it. My curiosity clawed at me. Opening it wider, I rummaged through the items inside. Clothes, a stuffed animal, a journal. I flipped through the pages of the journal, but they were empty, save for a name scrawled on the first page. Grace. Who was Grace? The name echoed in my head. I shoved the journal and the stuffed animal back in the bag, and then I heard it again. Someone whispering my name. The sound was closer this time, almost immediate, as if it were right behind me. I spun around, but there was nothing. Just the empty terminal, illuminated by the flickering lights. I was shaking now, caught in a web of fear and confusion. I turned and rushed to the maintenance office, desperate for comfort, for rationality. That was when I stumbled over something on the floor. A small card, its print faded. Terminal B, midnight flight, seat 27A. My hands trembled as I picked it up. What was this? Did it connect to the bag? I had to know more. My curiosity clashed violently with my fear. I couldn't stay here, not with whatever was lurking in those shadows. I stepped back toward the terminal corridor, glancing uneasily at every flickering light. I navigated through the maze of seats, towards Terminal B. As I approached, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt thick and charged, like before a storm. I had worked this airport long enough to know when something was off. I stood outside the entrance, staring at the closed doors. The silence inside was oppressive. I pushed the door open, and it creaked eerily as it swung on its hinges. Inside, everything was dark. Only the emergency lights glowed faintly in the distance. I was about to turn back, but then I remembered the card. I followed the signs to Gate 27. A beeping sound echoed, and I felt a tingle run up my spine. The laughter returned. Louder, closer, as if it was mocking me. It was coming from the darkness ahead. I took a cautious step forward, then froze. I could see a figure now, huddled in the corner of the terminal. I couldn't see their face, but I felt, rather than saw them turn towards me. "Help me," the voice whispered. A chill gripped me. Was that Grace? I took a step back, my fear mounting. It wasn't just a figure anymore. It was a plea, and I didn't know whether to run or stay. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. Before I could make my decision, the lights suddenly went out. Everything was plunged into darkness. I was alone, with the whisper and the laughter echoing all around me, and I felt my heart racing beyond control. I couldn't breathe. I gasped as the darkness swallowed me whole. My eyes strained to adjust, but I was completely disoriented. The laughter echoed again, now mixed with a low, disembodied voice that sent tremors through my body. I wanted to scream, but the sound lodged in my throat. I fumbled in my pocket for my phone, my fingers shaking with panic. I found it and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a dusty floor and empty seats. But there was still that figure, faintly visible at the edge of the light. "Please," the voice rasped again. "Help me." This time, it was accompanied by a soft rustling, like someone shifting their weight. I felt drawn to the voice, yet every instinct screamed at me to run. What if it was a trap? I couldn't shake the sense that I was being toyed with. Taking a shaky step forward, I trained the light on the figure. It was indeed a girl, perhaps 10 years old, clutching a teddy bear. Her head hung low, hair obscuring her face. But as I drew closer, she raised her head slightly. For a brief moment our eyes met. I felt an icy grip around my heart. "Why won't you help me?" she pleaded. Tears glistened in her eyes, reflecting the light like tiny stars. "Where is your mother?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. "Lost," she replied, her voice barely breaking through the shadows. "You have to find her." I was baffled. How could a child be alone here? The airport was empty. No travelers, no other workers. Just the haunting presence of this girl and her desperate plea. Behind me, the laughter bubbled up again, sharper and more sinister now. I turned to look, and my heart dropped. Shadows flickered along the walls, converging on me, mocking my hesitation. I had to make a choice. "Stay here!" I shouted at the girl, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'll find her." I rushed toward the exit, the flashlight bouncing wildly in front of me. I burst through the doors of Terminal B and back into the main waiting area. My breathing was frantic, and I could still feel the weight of those whispers trailing behind me. The walls felt closer now, the air thick with dread. I remembered the bag I had found. I needed to check what else was inside. I dashed to the maintenance office, heart racing, pushing the door open just long enough to grab it. Time was slipping through my fingers like sand, and I felt an urgency I couldn't explain. As I rifled through the bag, I noticed something that hadn't caught my eye before. A small, silver locket. I held it under the light, a faint inscription reading, "Grace, my forever." Then I heard it, an unmistakable weeping sound echoing through the terminal. My heart sank. That voice, it was too familiar. It was coming from the direction of Gate 27. I was about to turn when I felt it. A coldness wrap around my wrist. Panic surged as I twisted, but nothing was there. The laughter grew louder, almost maniacal now. I turned back toward Gate 27, heart pounding. What was happening? I had to know. But as I stepped closer, the doors began to shut violently, locking me out. My pulse raced. I was running out of time. I bolted toward Gate 27, desperate to squeeze through before the doors sealed me off. My heart raced faster than my feet. I slammed against the door, but it wouldn't budge. It felt like some dark force was pushing back, urging me to stay away. "Please!" I yelled, aware that my voice was barely a whisper in the vast emptiness. The weeping continued, sharp and filled with sorrow, intensifying my sense of dread. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass of the door and strained to see inside. The scene beyond the door flickered strangely. I focused hard, trying to decipher the shapes moving about in the shadows. And then I froze. Through the dim light, I saw her. The girl from before, standing right in the middle of the gate, a hazy outline of her small figure, her teddy bear now gone. She looked lost, her delicate frame trembling. Suddenly a louder wail pierced the terminal, and I felt the air shift. The atmosphere thickened, laden with despair. I glanced back toward the main terminal area. The shadows seemed to thicken around me, swirling like a storm, and the laughter returned, this time layered with sinister undertones. Then I heard another sound, more distinct. Footsteps approaching. I whipped around, my flashlight beam dancing wildly in the darkness. Someone was coming, but I saw nothing. Just shadows. I turned back to the girl at the gate. "I'm here!" I shouted, desperate to maintain connection with her amid the chaos. "I won't leave you!" In that very moment, another figure stepped from the shadows. A tall man, his face obscured. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice calm yet eerie. I stepped back instinctively, clutching the locket tightly, its metal biting into my palm. "I'm trying to help her," I said, nodding toward the girl. "Where's her mother?" The tall figure smirked, and his eyes glinted with something cold, something predatory. "You can't help the lost," he replied softly. "They are not meant to be found." I backed away further as he advanced, trying to suppress the panic rising within me. The girl remained still, gazing at him with wide, frightened eyes. I didn't understand, but I was too terrified to ask more. I had to act. "Get away from her!" I shouted. "She needs me!" The man halted, studying me as if I were an insignificant insect. "You meddle in forces you do not comprehend," he said, pointing at the locket. That belonged to her mother. Suddenly the lights flickered above us, causing the shadows to dance in an unsettling rhythm. The weeping intensified, resonating through the walls. I felt a pulse of clarity mixed with dread. The only way I could help the girl was to confront whatever darkness was threatening us both. "Tell her mother I'm coming," I shouted, feeling a surge of courage. "I'll find her." But the man only laughed, a sound echoing through the terminal. In that moment it hit me hard. Who could I trust? The girl's pleading eyes haunted me. And then, just like that, everything went dark. When the darkness fell away, the cold metal of the floor pressed against my cheek. I gasped, blinking in a haze. My flashlight flickered, casting weak beams against the walls. I was still in the terminal but disoriented, like I'd been thrown into another realm, I scrambled to my feet, mind racing. Where was the girl? Where was the man? My heart thudded painfully in my chest as I spun around. The shadows held their secrets, shifting and morphing with every heartbeat. Then I noticed a flicker of movement near the edge of the main terminal area. A ghostly figure passing between the loose rows of empty chairs. I moved cautiously, adrenaline pumping through my veins. "Hello?" I called out, but my voice sounded small, swallowed by the vastness. No reply. Just the sound of the weeping echoed again, softly this time. A shivering breath lodged in my throat. I stepped closer, drawn to the sound. That's when I saw it. A small tattered teddy bear lying on the floor. Its button eyes gleamed in the dim light, and I realized it belonged to the girl. I picked it up, feeling its worn fabric against my fingers. A sudden shiver crept down my spine. This bear was a lifeline, a token of hope. It might lead me to her. "I'll find you," I whispered to myself, clutching it tightly. But I could sense something lurking behind me. A shift in the air, a chill that crept along my skin. I turned slowly, and there he was, the tall figure from before, now standing far too close. His smile was a crescent moon, cold and uninviting. "I see you found something of hers," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Where is she?" I demanded, the bear shaking in my grip. "What did you do to her? Do you really think you can save her?" His laugh echoed around the terminal, piercing and shrill. "She is beyond saving. You should be running, not searching." "Why are you doing this?" I yelled, feeling a mixture of anger and wild desperation. "You're wrong. She deserves to go home." The man's expression shifted, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. "Home is a concept for the living," he said. "The dead do not share that privilege." And just like that, the lights flickered again, plunging us into near darkness. Panic surged. I glanced around, hoping for any sign of the girl, any direction to run toward. My instinct told me to escape, but the pull of the bear in my hand kept me rooted. Then I saw it, a shadow far back in the terminal. It wasn't the man. It was her. The girl, her eyes wide and searching as she reached toward me. I knew this was my chance. Desperation clawed at my throat. "I'm coming!" I shouted, sprinting toward her as fast as I could. But doubt pierced my thoughts. Was I really saving her, or was I walking into a trap? The man didn't follow. The instant I reached the shadow, everything went cold again. "No!" I called out, feeling the ground shift beneath me. I blinked and found myself in a completely different part of the terminal, alone again. The girl was gone, and I had lost my direction once more. My heart sank. How could I get her back? Then I spotted something glimmering on the ground. It was a piece of paper, crumpled but shimmering faintly with a light of its own. I leaned down to pick it up, my breath catching in my throat as I read the inscription. "The door to her freedom lies in the shadows." A new fear gripped me. What did that mean? I looked around cautiously, feeling the weight of the darkness closing in once again. This wasn't over. It was only the beginning. I could sense it deeper than ever now. A presence. The man, the girl, and the shadows were all somehow intertwined. I had to uncover the truth before it swallowed us whole. I stood there, clutching the crumpled piece of paper, pulse pounding in my ears. The suggestion of freedom echoed in my mind, but the shadows around me seemed to pulse with a life of their own, entwining themselves around my thoughts. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Determined to move, I stepped forward, searching for any hint of light, a way out of this nightmare. The terminal spread out like a labyrinth, the dim hues flickering overhead creating uneasy silhouettes. My flashlight struggled against the encroaching darkness. What was I really looking for? A door. A clue. I heard the weeping again, closer this time. It didn't sound like the girl anymore. It was almost like a warning. "Stay away," I whispered to myself. But the pull was so strong that I felt compelled to follow it. As I made my way down a narrow corridor, the sound intensified, echoing off the walls. Suddenly, a gust of cold air swept through, extinguishing my flashlight. I froze. Taking a deep breath, I forced my eyes to focus on the faint outlines in the darkness. The walls seemed to close in, as if they were alive and breathing. Then I noticed it. A door slightly ajar at the end of the corridor. A sliver of light leaked through. I glanced back, half expecting to see him looming behind me, but all I found was the dense gloom. Taking a cautious step forward, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. What I found was a small, dimly lit room, filled with a bizarre assortment of objects. Tarnished mirrors, rusted toys, and glowing bottles filled with liquid I couldn't identify. Each item seemed to hum with energy, buzzing softly in the silence. I inched closer to a cracked mirror leaning against the wall. My reflection stared back at me, distorted and warped. A sudden movement caught my attention, and I turned just as the door slammed shut behind me. Panic surged. "Let me out!" I shouted, banging against it. There was no answer, just silence. I pounded harder. My heart raced. I could feel the darkness pressing against me, as if it were alive. Then, against the wall, I saw it. A small carved figure, almost indistinguishable in the poor light. I approached, and when I touched it, a strange warmth coursed through my fingers. I felt a connection, a thread tying me to the girl and the man. I closed my eyes, focusing on the sensation. Suddenly my mind flooded with visions. A scene unfolded in my thoughts. The girl, scared and alone, wandering through shadows. The man's figure loomed over her, darker than the space around him. "Find the door!" she cried, but her voice warped, becoming part of the noise swirling in my head. I gasped and jerked my hand back. The vision dissolved, and I was back in the room, my breath coming in short gasps. The door was still shut, but now I felt a surge of urgency. I had to get back, find the girl, and learn what the door meant. If the shadows lead to answers, then that's where I must go. I said to myself, resolve hardening my voice. I turned back to the door, ready to force my way through. But as I placed my hand on the handle, I froze again. Something cold brushed against my neck. I slowly turned around to face an even darker corner of the room. Someone, or something, was there. And then I heard it. A whisper that chilled my bones. "You shouldn't have come here." I took a shaky step back, heart racing like a runaway train. The darkness seemed to ripple, and I squinted, trying to see what lurked in the corner. A faint outline emerged, forming into a vaguely human shape. My breath caught as that chilling whisper echoed again. "You shouldn't have come here. Who are you?" I managed to croak out, my voice trembling. The figure stayed silent, just watching me with an intensity that felt suffocating. I fought the urge to flee, reminding myself that running wouldn't get me answers. Then, without warning, the shadows around the figure deepened, swallowing the faint light in the room. His sickly sweet scent filled the air, mixing with the mustiness. I clenched my fists, searching my mind for a plan. I needed to distract it. I turned my gaze back to the carved figure. "I need to help the girl," I said, my voice stronger now. "Do you know where she is?" The figure didn't respond, but I felt something shift in the air. The temperature dropped, and I could see my breath form little clouds. The whispers morphed into something more. A voice from the darkness. "You seek answers, but the truth is not what it seems." The shape moved closer, and fear gripped me again. I couldn't let it intimidate me. I lunged toward the door, slamming my palm against the handle. "Let me out!" I shouted, but it held firm. Panic roared inside me as the shadowy figure moved forward, its outline becoming clearer. I finally caught a glimpse of its face, a twisted mockery of humanity, eyes like bottomless pits. Reality twisted, and I felt the energy in the room shift once more. Beyond the figure, I saw a faint light flickering like a beacon. "The door," I murmured. "It has to be there." Instinctively, I focused on it, every fiber of my being pushing against the dread. The figure roared, a sound that echoed through the small room like thunder. "You cannot escape the past," it bellowed. I turned and made a break for the light, ignoring the voice that haunted me. The moment I reached the door, I yanked it with all my strength. It flew open, revealing another dim corridor full of shadows. I dashed out, fear propelling me forward. "Wait!" the figure cried after me, the voice now laced with desperation. "You won't find what you're looking for." But I didn't stop. I ran down the corridor, desperate to find the girl and uncover the truth. Behind me, the whispers multiplied, haunting me. "You will regret this." I rounded a corner and skidded to a halt. There it was, a massive door at the end of the hallway, adorned with intricate carvings that shimmered faintly in the flickering light. Was this the way out? Before I could think, the shadows surged behind me, gaining speed. I could feel their presence creeping up my back. I raced toward the door, but then I had a sinking feeling. What if I opened it? Would it lead to freedom or something worse? Just as I reached for the handle, the lights flickered violently. Panic surged. I knew I was running out of time. What lay behind the door could change everything. I drew a deep breath, resolved. I had to know. I grabbed the handle and twisted it open, stepping into the unknown. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing a narrow staircase that spiraled down into darkness. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone. My heart thudded in my chest like a drum, and I hesitated. Should I go down? There was no turning back now. I steeled myself and stepped onto the first step. The moment my foot hit the ground, the door behind me slammed shut with a deafening bang. The sudden sound sent a jolt of fear through me. I was alone now, completely surrounded by shadows. I took another step, trying to steady my breath. The stairs wound down further than I expected, and the temperature plummeted. It felt like I was walking deeper into the earth, and the walls seemed to close in. As I descended, I heard faint whispers again, but this time they were layered, as if a crowd teemed beneath me, murmuring secrets of the past. I strained to catch a word or phrase, hoping for some clue, but the voices slipped away, just out of reach. My skin prickled and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching. Suddenly, a gust of cold air whirled past me, sending shivers down my spine. I stumbled, grabbing the iron railing to steady myself. That's when I noticed something unusual. A small, shining object at the base of the stairs caught my eye. I knelt down, squinting in the dim light, and picked it up. It was a locket, intricately designed and slightly open. I opened it fully, and inside was a small photograph of a girl, one who looked a lot like the one I was searching for. My heart raced. Could it be her? But before I could think much further, footsteps echoed from below. Heavy and deliberate, they sent a wave of panic crashing over me. I couldn't stay here. I slipped the locket into my pocket and started to back away, the whispers growing louder now, almost urgent. Just as I turned to flee, a shadow materialized at the bottom of the stairs. It was darker than the night itself, and I could distinguish a twisted face staring back at me, its eyes glowing like burning coal. Who are you? I gasped, my voice echoing in the stillness. The figure didn't answer but stepped closer, and I felt a pull, a magnetic force that dragged me toward it. I shook my head, fighting the sensation. This was the same voice that had called to me before, the one promising answers but delivering only fear. With nowhere else to go, I bolted back up the stairs, the locket bouncing against my leg. I reached the door, yanking on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers morphed into screams, and the heavy footsteps thundered closer behind me. "Do you want to know the truth?" The figure called out, its voice a low growl. I could feel the panic rising. I was trapped. "Let me out!" I screamed, pounding on the door. Then everything went dark. The shadows swallowed me whole, and I lost track of time. A new sense of urgency pierced through the darkness. I had to escape, not just for myself, but for the girl I now believed was somehow linked to this place. The girl trapped in the past. What had I unleashed by opening that door? I felt a new fear down to my bones. I needed to find her before time ran out. I woke up gasping for breath, the darkness still surrounding me like a thick fog. It took a moment to gather my bearings. The whispers had quieted down, replaced by an oppressive silence. I was still at the bottom of the stairs, but now I sensed something was different. My instinct screamed at me to move quickly, but my legs felt heavy. I pushed myself up from the cold, hard ground and looked around. A faint light flickered in the distance, illuminating a corridor that branched off from the stairwell. I could hear something, perhaps a faint rhythm, like drumming, emanating from that direction. The last remnants of the shadow had melted away, and I realized I had to find out what lay ahead. Slowly I made my way toward the light. It was dim, but it cast eerie shapes on the walls, shapes that seemed to shift and pulse as if alive. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, the sound of my feet echoing in the stillness. As I reached the entrance to the corridor, I saw that the walls were lined with frames, but inside them were not photographs, only dark, swirling voids. I reached out to touch one of the frames, and a jolt of energy shot through me, freezing me in my tracks. A chill wrapped around my spine. I withdrew my hand, heart racing. I glanced back toward the staircase. The whispering had resumed, but this time, it felt like they were calling my name, beckoning me back with their haunting melodies. "No," I whispered to myself, shaking my head. I needed to keep moving. I squinted down the corridor, the flickering light catching my eye. Just then, a loud crash echoed somewhere deeper in the darkness, like something, or someone, had fallen. I hesitated, the fear creeping into my chest again. "What was that?" I murmured, but I quickly caught myself. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. I steadied my breath and continued down the corridor, my footsteps trembling ever so slightly against the stone floor. The light grew brighter as I moved. The hallway opened to a larger room, and what I saw made my heart race again. In the center was a large altar, draped in tattered cloth, surrounded by unlit candles. Objects scattered across the surface glinted in the light. Books, artifacts, and more locket-like objects. But then I caught sight of something monumental, a faded portrait hanging on the far wall. I gasped. The girl in the photo bore an uncanny resemblance to the one in the locket. My fingers brushed against my pocket, feeling the locket's cool surface. There was a twinge inside me, as if the air had shifted. Something powerful was at play, and just as I was about to step closer, I froze. The whispers had intensified, screaming my name now, louder and more urgent. I turned, but just as I moved, another figure materialized in front of me. This one was not a shadow. It was a woman, and she looked exactly like the one in the portrait. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice dripping with anguish. My heart stopped. I wasn't prepared for this. Before I could respond, the ground shook beneath my feet, and the walls began to pulse as if they were alive. Whatever was happening, I had to learn the truth. But at what cost? The woman's image flickered slightly, as if she were caught between worlds. Her eyes were filled with desperation, and I could sense that she wasn't just a figment of my imagination. She was real, trapped in some agonizing limbo. "Where are you?" I managed to ask, my throat dry. "What happened?" "Grace is here," she gasped, her voice trembling. "You have to find her. She's trapped just like me." Panic converged in her eyes, and I felt the urgency in her tone. I glanced around, the scattered objects on the altar shimmering with a strange energy. They seemed to beckon to me, whispering of secrets untold. "How?" I asked, desperate for guidance. "How can I help? The door! It leads to her!" the woman urged, gesturing wildly behind her, to a tall, arching doorway that I hadn't noticed. Shadows lingered just outside, threatening to edge closer. I needed to move, but something held me back. "But you can't cross?" Her countenance darkened, fear radiating from her very being. "I'm bound here, a guardian of her past. Only you can break the cycle." Before I could process her words, the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar, suffocating me. I clutched the locket in my pocket, looking back at the altar that felt full of electric promise, yet terrifyingly unknowable. "What if I can't?" I breathed, feeling colossal fear wash over me. "You must," she implored. "Only by confronting the truth can you free Grace. Time is running out." I glanced back at the door where shadows twisted and curled, slipping through gaps like smoke. The energy in the room hummed, and with it came a sense of both dread and resolve. "I'll do it," I said, clenching my fist tightly. "I can't leave her." As I stepped toward the door, the woman's expression shifted. "It lies in the shadows. Forget the past. Only the truth can guide you," she whispered, and with those words she faded from view, leaving only the tremor in the air behind. Steeling myself, I pushed open the door. A blinding white light poured through, momentarily blinding me. I winced, shielding my eyes, and took a breath. When the glare faded, I stepped into an ethereal landscape, a blur of colors and shimmering lights. I found myself back in the terminal, standing near Gate 27. Everything seemed eerily familiar, but distorted. I felt pulled in countless directions. Then I heard it. The laughter again, resounding softer yet clearer, as if it was guiding me toward something. "Grace!" I shouted, fighting against the crowd of memories and shadows that pressed upon me. "I'm here!" As if in response, a figure flickered into view. It was her, small and delicate, standing just beyond a veil of shadows. She was no longer just a whisper or an echo. "Help me," she cried, reaching her hand out toward me. My heart sank. "Grace, I will!" I yelled, summoning every ounce of courage as I moved toward her. "I won't let you go," but as I neared, the shadows shifted like a wave around her, pulling back and revealing the tall figure again. He stepped forward, blocking her. "You can't take her," he sneered. "She belongs here." Fury coursed through me. "No, she's alive and she needs to be free." The figure laughed, a chilling sound that reverberated through the air. "You think you can change what is fated?" I took a deep breath, grounding myself. No fate is set in stone. Grace deserves a chance. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, I grasped the locket tightly in my palm. Raising it high, I shouted, "You are nothing but a nightmare. You can't hold her." The room shuddered, shadows swirling violently. Grace's face faded in and out, her pleas mingling with the laughter, but I pressed on. The air thickened, swirling around us as I focused and poured all my will into the locket. In that moment, an explosion of light erupted from the locket, illuminating the darkness. I saw fleeting memories. Grace with her mother, laughter filling the air. Innocent, warm, and full of life. "Find the truth!" I shouted, believing in it. "We are not bound to the past." The laughter began to falter, the shadows shrinking back. I focused on Grace, her small hand reaching most desperately toward me. And suddenly a piercing scream rose from the figure, a sound that pierced the very fabric of reality. "No!" he roared, retreating into the shadows. "She cannot leave." But just then, it happened. Time slowed, and the shadows evaporated in that brilliant light, revealing the trembling girl in front of me now fully lit. "Grace!" I cried, running toward her, and as we locked eyes, a joyful smile broke through the tears on her face. "Thank you," she exclaimed, the darkness breaking away, revealing the light of the terminal behind her. But just as I reached out to take her hand, the ground trembled. The energy in the air shifted, and I felt the pull of uncertainty again. "What will happen now?" I managed to ask, glancing back to see if the figure lurked in the corners. "Time is not finished yet," Grace said, her voice trembling. "We need to leave. We must go before he comes back." We sprinted toward the archway, yet shadows clawed at our heels, remnants of a darkness that refused to relent. Just as we passed the threshold, I thought I heard the figure laughing one last time, the sound seizing my heart with cold fear, before a powerful pulse reverberated around us. And just like that, we were gone, the shadows evaporating behind us. The terminal reappeared, alive with familiar sounds, the echoing announcements, the bustle of travelers, and I hesitated. Was this truly the end? Had I really freed Grace, or had I merely shifted the darkness to another mirror of reality? Yet as I turned to Grace, there was a quiet smile on her face, the bright locket resting against her heart, a sign of hope. "I'll never forget," she whispered, fading back into the light, leaving me with lingering unease that echoed within. I didn't know if I'd truly won, or merely escaped. But I knew one thing. Answers lay just beyond that veil, just out of reach. A mystery that would linger like an unfinished conversation. I slipped back into the familiar rhythm of the terminal, yet my heart still raced, wondering if shadows would ever fully release their grip on the past. I'd never be the same, trapped between light and dark. And in that uncertainty, I carried the weight of questions that would echo long after the lights dimmed again.